What's up? This is Autark here from smartbuytrends.com. The new Macs with the M1 processor are just incredible. Last November, Apple released new MacBook Air, 13-inch MacBook Pro, and Mac Mini powered by their new M1 chip. Unlike the Intel chip previously used by Apple and still used by Apple as they slowly phase them out, the M1 chip is designed by Apple and specifically made for Apple products. And per Apple, the M1 delivers up to 3.5 times faster CPU, up to 6 times faster GPU, up to 15 times faster machine learning capabilities, and battery life that is 2 times longer than before. And the new M1 processor is so good and powerful, Apple even dished the fan altogether in the MacBook Air. But this isn't the MacBook Air, this is the MacBook Pro 13-inch with the M1 chip, and this one does have a fan. I think it does have a fan. I'm pretty sure it does have a fan. At least Apple say it does have a fan because I did not hear the fan run once since I got it. So I wanted to see how Zwift runs on the MacBook Pro and the type of performance I get. I hardly ever use my laptop to run Zwift or any cycling app. I have a dedicated Alienware gaming PC that I use to run Zwift in 4K and to test out other cycling apps. I also use Apple TV, which I still think is the best way and most cost-effective way to run Zwift. Generally, if I can avoid using my laptop to work out, I'll avoid it. Primarily because I like to keep my laptop just for work-related stuff and not have to worry about installing softwares and taking the charger with me, which is just another thing to worry about. Plus, hearing that fan at full speed for hours makes me wonder if this is a good thing for my laptop, so I just don't use it. But with Apple's claims and the ridiculous reviews this machine got, I was very intrigued and very curious. I wanted to see what type of performance I will get using the new MacBook Pro with the M1 chip to run Zwift, what kind of graphic performance, frame rate, and most importantly, how long the battery will last and whether you can rely on it to do these long workouts. Keep in mind, Zwift has not released an optimized version for the M1 chip yet. Zwift is running on Rosetta, which is an application compatibility layer designed by Apple to give app developers time to design their apps to run on Apple's new hardware. Okay, so this is the 8-core MacBook Pro 13-inch with the M1 chip. I did not do any upgrades to it other than the storage. I went with the 512 gigabytes, left around the same 8 gigabyte, and I did not touch anything else. So for a quick comparison, I used to have a 13-inch MacBook Pro that I literally just bought about 6 months ago with 16 gigabyte RAM, so double the RAM on the old MacBook Pro than the new one. And without any other app running in the background and screen brightness at medium, I did 4 different tests to compare the two laptops. Zwift has a battery saver option in the setting, so let's go through each one of these settings and options and see how the new M1 performed in comparison to my older MacBook Pro. The maximum graphic performance right now you will get is high definition 1080p. I think it might get bumped up to Ultra once Zwift update their graphic profile for the M1 chip, but for now 1080p is all you get, which is still pretty good for a laptop. Okay, with the maximum battery saving option selected, meaning Zwift will try to run at an ultra low profile to save your laptop battery. On the MacBook Pro with the Intel chip, after 1 hour, the battery was down 37%. You will get 15 frames per second with this setting, which is okay with Zwift if you don't care much about frame rate, but it's not going to be the smoothest looking video. On the new Mac with the M1 chip, I also got 15 frames per second, which is expected because Zwift did not release a specific profile for the M1 chip yet, so maybe this will get bumped up or change once they have an Apple Silicon version. But from a battery consumption standpoint, and get ready for this, the 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro battery only went down by 9%. 9%, that's it. My iPad mini uses a lot more than 9% in 1 hour. And the fan did not even run once. It was completely silent, like nothing was going on. Just insane. And with the battery saver set to medium, the Intel-based Mac version consumed about 41% of the battery. The M1 Mac only used 13% of the battery. That is it. So about 4% more than the maximum battery saver. Both got 20 frames per second at this setting. Okay, on the minimum battery saving settings, meaning Zwift will use additional resources and increase the frame rate to 30 frames per second. With the Intel version MacBook Pro, in 1 hour, it used 75% of the battery. It went from 100% to 25% in 1 hour. The fan was running, not too loud, but you can hear it. The new M1 MacBook Pro only used 15% of the battery in 1 hour of riding in Zwift. The fan did not run and it was super quiet. Just insane. Now finally, with no battery saver option and going full power and taking advantage of the GPU, the Intel version used 83% of its battery in 1 hour. It was hot to the touch and the fan was running almost from start to finish, where the MacBook Pro M1 only used 35% of the battery. That's all. 35% for 1 hour. The laptop was a little hot to the touch, but the fan did not even budge. It didn't even run. It was like, is this all you got? But the interesting part is Zwift on the Intel version was running at 47 frames per second, reaching as high as 65 frames per second and as low as 28 frames per second. On the other hand, the M1 averaged over 63 frames per second, reaching as high as 82 frames per second and as low as 39 frames per second. It would have probably averaged more than 63 frames per second, but I did run QuickTime screen recorder in the background to record some part of the ride, and you can see it drop to about 60 frames per second during that section. On the Bluetooth side of things, Bluetooth connection to my smart trainer and heart rate monitor was solid throughout all my tests, and I did not experience any dropouts. You can see this in the Zwiftalizer. Actually, this was the case in both laptops. So a really impressive laptop. Great work, Apple. It is incredible what they did here with their ultra low power, ultra low end versions of their machines. Hopefully Zwift will catch up soon. I'm looking forward to see how Zwift run once we have an Apple Silicon version that is optimized and can take full advantage of the new M1 chip. I can't wait, and I'll put it through some testing too once it comes out, so stay tuned and make sure to subscribe. Anyway, let me know if you have any question. I will leave links in the description to Amazon where you can get the same version I have here. And I have seen like a $50 off a few days ago on the MacBook Pro with the M1 chip on Amazon. So check that one out first. Okay, that's all I have. Remember to hit the like button and also subscribe if you've made it this far in this video and have not subscribed yet. Thank you for watching, and see you guys in the next video.